I remember as I was going out to be taken to the dispensary, he told me, "You go die in the hospital, I'm going to die in this house." I didn't know whether he was serious, but that one happened later. So I was taken to the hospital, the nearby dispensary first, given first aid, and after the first aid, now my brother and my dad had arrived and they made a decision that I was going to be taken to a nearby good hospital. The doctor there the nurse there had given me a referral to Kenyatta, but my dad refused and said, "No, we are not going to go to Kenyatta. There might be a queue and she's in a very critical condition." So I was rushed to Grunanak Hospital, where they found he had interfered with 5 critical nerves in my head, and blood was just oozing, and the doctors were very afraid that it could have mixed with my brain. And then later on they realized the bones in my hand had been interfered with. I needed to be fitted with metal plates, and also I needed a surgery on my right hand side breast. It was the toughest time of my life. I remember I went to the theater for the head surgery, almost 7 hours under the knife. I know I heard later of people who even had thought that I had passed on in the theater. But after coming from the theater, I was not the same person, because I didn't have any headache. I didn't have any pain. They had fitted me with 5 plastic nerves that I still survive with up to today, because there was no other correction that they could have done apart from just fitting replacing those nerves with plastic nerves. Then after 2 weeks, I need another surgery. Before the next surgery, I remember after coming from the theater is now when a police officer visited me, who was in charge of that situation, because they had even visited the house and found that he had killed himself. But even before the police officer told me about his death, I remember one of our family friends that they used to work together with, he called me and he told me, "We are very sorry that all that happened to you, but you don't worry, concentrate on your healing, because he killed himself." That's how I got the news of his death. Even when this police officer was there trying to record my statement, telling me that there is something she wants to tell me, she was just trying to take me through all this, and I was like, just, I knew what had happened. So I was like, why doesn't she break this news to me? Because I want to heal all these wounds together. And by that time, I didn't care. I had gone through the toughest time of my life. I have gone through domestic violence. I had heard of all that people were saying, because there were people who were streaming in hospital and they could even come and speak some nasty words. Some could come and encourage me, and I was just ready for anything. So when she broke all this news to me, I told her I knew that he killed himself. Somebody had already told me about it, and there was no problem with telling me, because I was already concentrating with my healing, and my biggest worry was about my kids at this time. But I knew they were safe because my sister had left with them. So while in the hospital now, we are almost going to the 2nd week where I'm supposed to be taken in for the 2nd surgery. This one now was to happen 2 in a row, my hand and my breast surgery, both of them in a row. Close to 5 hours again under the knife. It was successful, and I came out of the theater now, and I had to learn how to survive using one hand, because it was until I went through physiotherapy after healing is where I came to now start using my left hand. So it was so painful. Then while I'm in the hospital is where I came to realize abuse has got a lot of forms, and I realized now my in-laws had turned this thing against me. My in-laws started accusing me of his murder, and they were saying she killed our son so that she could remain with the things that they had already gathered. And they were very specific, the things that he had already gathered, not the things that we had gathered, forgetting that I was also working. Now, I'm this woman when I'm in hospital, the in-laws break into my house. They decide to walk away with everything, including my own bed. And then I'm like, oh my God, where will I start this journey again? Because I hear it from the neighbors. The house was a scene of crime. No one was supposed to access it, but these ones decided to defy the law and break into the house. I was so much affected by this because, for one, I was not answerable for anything that he did. He committed suicide by himself. He took a knife, stabbed himself, and decided to cut down all his small intestines. That was from the police report, the ones who visited the scene of crime, and they even invited CID officers to collect the information about his death. It was a tough time of being accused. I leave the hospital when I am discharged. My children are here, they see me, and they are all crying. And when I look at my children, I start just imagining what could have happened to them. While I'm still in the house and I don't even have hope when I'm going to resume work, I get a letter. There is a case that has been filed in court. Responding to the letter by going to court, then I have to be accused of his murder. I had to go to court time and again, until the court came to learn from the OCS who was commanding that police station. The court came to realize that I was not answerable about his death in any way because evidence was put on the table. But the in-laws really wanted me behind the bars, that I could be taken to Langata and serve a jail term that I did not deserve. And I came even to realize and ask myself, how many women and how many men are in prisons for the sins they never committed? So that was my biggest question. And then at this time, I lose my job. The time that I needed my job so much so that I could take care of everything else that I needed, that my children needed. I needed to give them a decent life. I needed to give them education. I needed to dress them. And everything now came to a standstill. Everything was lost. People never knew about this because they could visit me and I could not tell them anything that was happening around my life. I just kept quiet. But one time I just decided to speak out and shared with one of my friends who was who was visiting me very often. And I told her about my situation, and she decided to talk to another friend of ours who was living outside the country, but she had a business in Nairobi. So she took me in, and this is how now I started to build myself again. I started to work again. This is where now I even found, I found hope, but I was not able to work. Actually, she just took me in so that I could get money to help my children and myself with, because my left hand could not have held anything. So I was like, I'm using this right hand, and also this breast had already been operated on. So I was just like somebody who had a disability but trying to work. This space that she created for me also helped me in healing because I was able to interact with other people. We had time to chat, unlike the time I was alone in the house. She gave me permission even to attend the court cases. She was just a good lady who understood my situation at that time. I could tell her, I am going to court in the morning, then at times you find it has been adjourned, you're going tomorrow in the morning, and she never felt it. When I could come and tell her, nothing happened in court, I've been told to go back tomorrow, she just understood me from A to Z. And I thank God because of her, because so many people who go through abuse sometimes don't get people who can understand them. So after this case, this court case was thrown away, now I am told I can file a case because of defamation of character, because these people, they had really tarnished my name saying that I'm the one who had killed. I remember when I went back to the house after I had already spoken to my lawyer, who I was given by the state, I told him, I think we are going to follow up on this thing because nobody hates money, because I had been told defamation of character these people are going to pay you. And I looked at my situation and I said, I need this money so much. But I remember one day when I was in the house, it's when I had just someone speaking to me and telling me to drop it. And I could look around my bedroom and I never saw anyone. I asked myself, who is that speaking to me and telling me to forgive and move on? I never saw this person up to today, but I always say it was God who was talking to me in that way, because you cannot see God. So when I listened to this voice, I remember I called my lawyer. First of all, I struggled with this voice. Then I decided, let me call my lawyer and tell him what is going to happen. So I called him and I told him what I need at this particular moment is you to drop that file. Don't go ahead with this thing. I have forgiven them. And my lawyer was like, for real? Are you for real? Are you okay? Is something wrong? Did these people do anything more that now you want to forget about this? No, I told him no. I just feel like forgiving them and move on. One, I also came to learn, if I could have moved to court and they pay me for defamation of character, they could have used more money because they were from a well-up family against me. They could have used another extra money, then file another case. So I think even up to today, I would be in court trying to solve issues that never come to an end. That was the best time of my life, having forgiven them. Forgiveness is very painful, but it rewards. I decided to move on. The lawyer asked for money because he had already started the process. He had put together the papers, and I told him there is no problem. I looked for his money and we gave the lawyer his money, and we cancelled that case. And it really helped me to move on. One, there was no more court issue. There is nothing as good, especially in Kenya, when you go to bed knowing that you don't have a pending case in court. There are things that I've come to realize they can make you become poor, and even you don't get a name in this country. One is when you are very sick and you need help. Two is when you have a case in court. Those two things, they can make you go to the grave very fast, or you can even become have a mental issue, because you're thinking about paying the lawyer. If you don't have a lawyer, you have to be at the office of the DPP trying to request for one, or use other channels to get a lawyer. And this one really makes you feel like you're not a Kenyan, because you have to struggle to get anything that you need, yet you are in need, and maybe you have even come to a point of losing. So this time was the best time, having no case in court. Continuing to struggle now for my children. It helped me. Forgiveness, even after you have been abused, helps in the healing process. And I always tell people, it's not about just forgiving and forgetting about justice, because you can forgive, and then when you forget that you should also pursue justice, then at this time you're doomed. This is where you find you have forgiven somebody. When you forget about justice, then this person will be stalking on you, following you, looking for you, look for you even at your place of work, and then whatever they are going to do, they are going to do something that no one under the earth, under the sun, will believe. I always tell people, if he would still be alive today, I would have continued going to court and try to get my justice. And this is why I tell people, don't just leave it, because you don't know who you are leaving it to. Anytime you leave something without getting justice, you have opened another loopholes. This person will get to know. So even if tomorrow I go and harm her, she's not going to do anything on me. But and they will ask, by the way, what can she do? What can he do? And because domestic violence or any other type of violence does not only happen to women. Violence is violence. It happens to children, it happens to women, it happens to men. But statistics shows that women and children, they are the ones who are most affected by violence. One, because of their financial situations, especially women. Two, their roles as women, and their roles also comes together or goes together with their responsibilities. One, a woman will start asking you, what do I do when I'm going through an abusive relationship, yet I have children? What do I do and yet I don't have a job? What do I do or how will the society look at me? And because I had a holy matrimony in church, if you're a Muslim, maybe you had a Muslim type of wedding, and then they are like, no, I just want to be here and persevere. I always tell people, it's better to be sorry than to die thinking that one day it will work out. Every time I go to visit people who have been abused in hospitals, I always remind them, when the doctor leaves and when that television set has been put off, you only remain yourself looking up. And the only thing you can see up there is a ceiling board. I always tell people, there is nothing as boring in the hospital as you just facing up and looking up to the ceiling board. You can make something better instead of you becoming bitter. Just walk out of that relationship if it is not working.